Guys, welcome back to another Talking Pictures with Kenny Martin. In this series, I'm going to talk about my favourite pictures I've photographed in the last 40 years as a professional portrait photographer. Do you know, one of the joys of this series is going back through my catalogue and finding pictures that are kind of almost long forgotten and having the opportunity to go back in, check them over, reprint them on some beautiful fine art paper and have them there forever, because let me tell you something, a photograph ain't a photograph unless it's printed. So I want to talk about Jackie Stewart here. There's a couple of really interesting stories here. This was photographed for Expressions of Scotland in the mid-90s sometime, and I went up to Gleneagles, up to his suite at Gleneagles, where I was met by his assistant at the door. And this was quite an unusual situation, because the assistant says to me, "Are you Kenny?" I says, "I am." He said, "Mr. Stewart is waiting for you in his suite." And then he said to me, "You have 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Let me tell you guys, I've never had 45 minutes to take a portrait in my life. Sometimes I get 2 minutes, and you got to get in there and get the photograph and create something special. I had 45 minutes with Jackie. Couldn't believe it. And I went up to the door. Jackie came to the door. I was introduced by his assistant, and Jackie Stewart said to me this. He said, "Kenny, tell me this." I said, what was that?" He said, "Have you really won a Kodak Gold Award?" I went, "Yeah, I have." And I thought, that's the most bizarre thing. This guy's one of the most famous people in the world, the greatest racing driver that anybody's ever seen at that point. And he's asking me if I've won a Kodak Gold Award anyway. So we got on absolutely wonderfully. We talked about all sorts of great stuff. We did all the photographs in the room using window light, I think I maybe had, no, I didn't have any flash with me. The whole thing was done with window light, I think. And I found this particular corner here. And what I was trying to do is he's actually been lit by a window in this side of the picture here. Natural light coming in here. And beautifully split light. You can just see a little bit of his right eye. Love the hand position. That was all down to him. I love that solid hand position. And I tried to make it look like he had been lit naturally by this light. So it's like a psychological tool that you would use in your photography to try and con the viewer into thinking it's been lit in a different way as it has. There's a couple of key aspects in this photograph, I think, which is the triangle that we have in Jackie's position here. Triangles are always such a powerful tool in portraiture, and if you can incorporate triangles either in the composition itself or in the subject, it always becomes a more successful result. What was really interesting is when I got back from this particular session and I got the negatives and we did a contact print, and this was the one for me that kind of just totally jumped out. There were some nice other shots, but this was the one for me that totally jumped out. And I entered it, by the way, for the Kodak Gold Awards, and it won a Kodak Gold Award. So Jackie was staying in Neon in Switzerland at that point, and I phoned up and I spoke to his assistant, his PA, and I said, "You're never going to guess this." I said, "But Jackie was so excited about hearing I had won a Kodak Gold Award." And I said, "I've just won a Kodak Gold Award with his picture." Now, this is perhaps how millionaires become millionaires and why I'll never be a millionaire. He's the only person that I did a contract with for that entire set of pictures. And that was, he wanted the contract, not me. And one of the clauses in the contract was if he bought any of the resulting pictures, and the idea was not to sell the pictures, the idea was to go in the book, have the exhibition, and sell the final pictures. There was no thought really of the sitters actually buying anything extra. But one of the contracts, clauses in the contract was If any pictures that were going to be bought, Jackie would only pay cost price for the pictures. And I thought, well, what the hell, yeah, that's fine. So he ordered 10 by 8 glosses of the award-winning picture. And I thought, God, what am I going to charge him? Because I normally charge 30 or 40 pounds for a 10 by 8 glossy. Back then, back in the 90s. And I thought, I'll charge him a fiver each. Because that'll kind of be enough, and I'll no have a loss out of that. So I did all the prints, and I packed them all up, and I sent them off to Switzerland. And about a week later, I got a telephone call off the PA. And she said to me, Jackie's been doing a wee bit of research, and he thinks that the picture should be more like £3.50 rather than £5. Well, I've got to tell you, my jaw dropped to the floor. I could not believe what I was hearing. Now, that's just how he is, I guess, and that's probably why he is a millionaire. And as I say, I'm not a millionaire. But I did love speaking to him. I did love spending that time with him. I was delighted that I did get a gold award and lots of publicity from this particular session. And this is an absolutely glorious print. It really is. Really incredibly deep shadows, which I love. So when I'm photographing in this style here, the shadows for me are really the most important part. I always use a hand meter, and always meter for the highlight of the face. So I'd be metering from here towards the window and letting the rest of the picture really sort itself out. Blacks are brilliant in portraits. That's what makes a portrait. That's what makes the shape in the face. That's what makes the drama. Not only in a portrait, by the way, but also in landscapes and in other style of photography. If you can learn just to expose for the highlights, your photography will improve overnight. So this is my portrait of Jackie Stewart. I hope you enjoyed the story. I'll be back with more of these talking pictures very soon. If you would subscribe to the channel, if you would like the video, click the notification bell, guys. I would really appreciate that. And thanks very much for listening. I'll see you on the next one.